Yeah, of course. It's very good to be with you again, Dan. This is the big problem. When I saw this news on Sunday, like a lot of people, I thought, Dawn Butler has accused absolutely everybody of being institutionally racist. And the tiny amount of footage she released from her phone uh, already started to throw questions about her story. It now seems that the police couldn't actually have seen who the occupants were because there were tinted windows on the car and lots of other things. Dawn Butler is just primed. That's why I made the reference to Rosa Parks. She's absolutely primed to just always accuse everyone of racism. She's done it for years. And that little joke at the beginning in reference to the whirlpool bath she charged the taxpayer in the last decade on her parliamentary expenses. It's just to remind people, apart from anything else, it's perfectly possible that people like Dawn Butler can do things wrong, and it has nothing to do with racism. I don't think she charged the taxpayer for a whirlpool bath for any reason to do with race. I think she just thought she deserved it and she could get away with it. And throughout the rest of her career, she's got away with a lot of things by just saying that every single criticism of herself is racist. And she did it to the Metropolitan Police last weekend. But as I say in the column, in a way, what does it matter? Because we've spent the last few months with people like Dawn Butler telling us that absolutely everything about Britain is racist. We're institutionally racist through and through. Our history is racist. Everyone is white is racist. And so, as I say in the column, it's with a sort of shrug that you hear the news these days that somebody thinks the police is institutionally racist, because if everything is racist, then it feels like nothing really matters.
But of course, the mainstream media went bananas for this claim from Dawn Butler. She was leading all of the news channels, and you point out that the interviewer from Channel 4 News, Fatima Manji, gave her far the opposite of a grilling, asking her things like, how could this happen to someone who had been declared one of the 25 most inspirational women in Britain, rather than actually questioning whether this was racist at all. Like, for example, the cops couldn't even see you before they pulled you over because the windows were tinted.
That's right. The interview that Dawn Butler did on Channel 4 News was unbelievable. Miss Manji, her interviewer, just threw her these softball questions like, you've just been named one of the 25 most inspiring women in Britain by Vogue magazine. By the way, normally Channel 4 News interviewers don't cite Vogue magazine. I mean, it's very rare. The last time I went on and was interviewed by Channel 4 News, they didn't talk to me about Vogue magazine, but then I suppose I wasn't lucky enough to be nominated one of the 25 most inspirational people in Britain by Vogue magazine. But, Dawn Butler was so pleased. You see it in her face when this happened. She was so thrilled by this reference to her, and she was just pleased to be given this softball, nice, friendly, fluffy interview, because it allowed her to just smear the entire Metropolitan Police, and then, as ever with her, to say that she uses her position to be a sort of spokesperson for people. By the way, any cause which had Dawn Butler as their spokesperson should know it's in trouble. And should never nominate her for this role, even if she's self-nominated herself for this role. She's a terrible spokesperson. But the person,
why
should be. Well, actually, for the reasons she showed in the Channel 4 interview, she couldn't. She stumbled around talking about the police and their institutionally racism and so on. And this is common throughout her career. She is, with the same reason that I'd say she isn't a good spokesperson, is because when she was on Good Morning Britain a little while ago, she said children are born without sex. Children are born without sex, according to Dawn Butler. They don't have the organs in question that show whether they're a boy or a girl. Some cis heteronormative transphobic delivery nurse simply announces that it's a boy or a girl. That's apparently what happens in the view of Dawn Butler. She's a hideous spokesperson for any rights claims group. But, the person she is meant to be a spokesperson for is the people of her constituency.
Yep.
And, this is it's an example of the woeful lack of representation we see in Britain these days, is that everyone wants to talk about representation by race and gender and much more. And we have a representative body in this country, and it's Parliament. And I think that Dawn Butler let down Parliament in the last decade. I think she's let it down repeatedly in this one. This country deserves to have parliamentarians who don't take cheap shots at institutions like the police. It deserves to have parliamentarians who don't go around making the most egregiously smearing allegations against the whole of the police. It deserves people who actually respect public bodies and, yes, where there are failings, points them out. But that isn't what Dawn Butler did. She just decided on a Sunday afternoon to smear the entire Metropolitan Police with the most base claim, based, so far as we can see, on the evidence that's come out, on absolutely nothing.
She also said that Cressida Dick should spend all of her waking moments trying to eradicate institutional racism from the Met Police. And as you point out, she said that when just 24 hours earlier, a black teenager had been macheted to death.
That's right.
On Oxford Street in London, which presumably should be the real crime that Dawn Butler is wanting the Met Police to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, at 5:30 in the afternoon on Oxford Street, and a 17-year-old black guy gets macheted to death, and 3 people are in custody, having gone into hospital with knife wounds of their own after that. 24 hours later, Dawn Butler's all over the news talking about her thrilling pullover by the police, and we just hear nothing about just a barbaric thing like that, because we kind of got used to it. Maybe people are bored of it or something. I'm not bored of that subject. I think it's just terrible. I think it's terrible that knife crime in London is so ongoing. It's appalling, and that young lives are being wasted on our streets week after week. And all that happens is that we have this pathetic runaround debate that happens where some people say we should do more stop and search, and other people say you can't, because stop and search might disproportionately target the population which disproportionately carries out the stabbings on other people of that disproportionate minority community. You just got to look at this, wonder what the seriousness of some of our representatives is at times like this. I have always said that every age has certain subjects which are really easy to talk about and others that are really difficult, and they move around. And at the moment, it's really easy to sort of talk about institutional racism and how everyone who's white is a racist. That's dead easy. You can get on Channel 4 News in no time, so long as you're willing to sing that hymn. The thing that's difficult is to say there's terrible knife crime in London. It's predominantly young black men killing other black men, and that to therefore have a discussion about whether or not stop and search might be disproportionate and so on doesn't quite rise to the occasion of the problem that we're facing in London. And we just hamper ourselves on discussion after discussion. I don't think Britain is a very racist country. I don't think we're a racist country, really, full stop. Are there racists in it? Almost certainly, like there are everywhere. But I just think that this inability to tackle something like the week after week knife crime in London, because we're so fearful about this racism accusation, is really, it's time we stopped. People like Dawn Butler actually make this very much harder. She could use her position to really zone in on this and to try to solve a problem like the knife crime problem in London. But all we get is the endless grandstanding, the endless just talk of institutional racism and how everyone is racist. And meantime, there's blood on the streets.
And perhaps the most concerning thing about this, Douglas, as you said, that actually you just shrugged in a way when you heard this claim from Dawn Butler, because actually, if she's going to overuse these types of incidents to claim institutional racism, a lot of folk are just going to tune out. And actually, that's bad for the overall cause, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, I think the whole thing's bad. I think that we've been living in an era where a set of reasonable and legitimate rights claims around race, sex, sexual orientation, as I say in the madness of crowds, have all basically reached the point. We're all anti-racists. We're all anti-sexists. But we get to this stage where certain people decide at this stage to really grandstand on it. And as a result, they basically inflate the currency. Because as I said, when everything is claimed to be racist, then nobody much cares when you claim a specific thing is, because we've just heard enough of it. And I think that's dangerous in the long run.